Get ready for a big and incredibly interesting episode into the world of money and the future. Hey explorers, this is Quatom.
Open your mind.
And immediately a question. What do David Bowie, a rugby player, a tiger painting graffiti, a cyclist with unshaved legs, a naked indigenous woman riding a shark, devilry, and a pooping donkey have in common? You'll be surprised, but all of these can be found on real money. I didn't make this up, just look. The Brixton Pound with David Bowie, the Exeter Pound with a rugby player, the Bristol Pounds, where on one side a tiger paints graffiti, and on the other, a cyclist's unshaved legs, a naked indigenous woman riding a shark. These are Cook Islands dollars. Some strange stuff. Look at the pooping donkey. And here's a banknote that didn't load properly. And in Yakusha, people used wine labels for payment. Here's another story. In the 2000s, the number of billionaires in Zimbabwe grew, and it wasn't because of gold or diamonds, but because of hyperinflation, 231 million%. Just imagine, prices in Zimbabwe doubled every day, and prices grew 128 times a week. There was more and more money, but you could buy less and less with it. A bottle of beer cost 150 billion Zimbabwean dollars, and a loaf of bread cost as much as 12 new cars used to. Carrying that much money was physically difficult. Sometimes, people just stacked it up and set it on fire. Obviously, something had to be done. So the country introduced these bills, 100 trillion Zimbabwean dollars. A similar situation happened in Germany. They printed so much money that the practical Germans started using it as wallpaper. They made dresses out of it. You could even wear this to the Academy Awards. Everyone would say, "Wow, cool." And they let kids play with it because it was cheaper than buying them a plastic pyramid, for example. Weird, right? No matter how much money you have, at some point it can just turn into paper. But you know what? Let's find out how much money is actually on Earth. M0. That's an astronomical amount of cash on our planet. That's about 7.6 trillion US dollars distributed around the world in this way. Each green square represents $100 billion. And how many rubles are there? That's how much. That's 8 trillion rubles. With this money, you could build 30 new Large Hadron Colliders or one giant one around Russia's Golden Ring with a diameter of 155 miles, or launch a Tesla into space 1,553 times. And that's all the cash in rubles. Seems like not much, right? Yeah, but I'm not upset, because the real amount of rubles, like all the other money in the world, is still more. If we add up all the cash, money on cards, and money in current accounts, we get the M1 total, 37 trillion US dollars. But there's also money that banks won't allow you to withdraw at will, like savings deposits. And if we combine all the money on accounts, in wallets, bonds, safes, and storage facilities, we get the so-called broad money. Money on our entire planet. That's 90 trillion US dollars. But even this cosmic amount doesn't compare to the global debt, which has ballooned to $318 trillion. Here's how the amount looks that governments, individuals, and companies owe each other. That's huge compared to the existing cash. To get out of this deep debt hole, even a government would need something to stand on. Yeah, to stand and pull itself up. For example, a giant cube of pure gold, 144 feet on each side. That's how the equivalent of $63 trillion looks. But melting all the gold reserves wouldn't even give a quarter of that cube. Let's go back to broad money. If we expressed all the money on our planet as $100 bills and laid them out in a row, they would stretch so much that you could circle the equator 35,500 times. But no matter how much savings you have, in essence, it's just paper and numbers in bank accounts. When dealing with money, the only thing that really matters is what's behind it and what it's backed by. Back in the day, all money in the world was commodity money, meaning people used valuable goods as money. For example, in China, pressed tea bricks were used as money, and in Central America, cacao beans. Then gold and silver replaced commodity money. They were valued because of how hard they were to get, and some places still use similar currencies. People on the Pacific islands of Yap, for instance, are used to paying with stones. Not just any stones. Giant stone discs weighing up to 8,000 pounds! Yeah, there's cash, but stones are still used in deals. They even have an airport there, but stones are still used in transactions. This man is a local oligarch, a multi-ton stone oligarch. Try to steal a stone from him, and you'll get beaten up right away. Over time, paying with gold and silver became inconvenient. Coins were heavy and bulky, so banks emerged, offering notes in exchange for gold and silver, which meant the person had valuables in a certain amount. Our bank guaranteed it. Today, the government sets the value of money at its discretion. It simply declares that these pieces of paper will be worth a certain value. People then go, okay. These are called fiat money, from the Latin word fiat, meaning let it be so. It's like a childhood game of a store where we used pebbles, leaves, and sticks as money. We exchanged them and believed in their value. Governments print money on machines, and in the US, you can buy whole sheets of bills right off these machines. You don't even have to cut them up. And, like Apple founder Steve Wozniak, he once paid to troll waiters. In the 80s, a lot changed because the whole world started selling oil for dollars. That's when Americans kicked their dollar machine into overdrive. The volume of US dollars increased by 800%. There's more money in the world now, and that's a fact. And it's easy to check. Rappers. Yeah, rappers talk about money more than anything. Typing into rap lyric stats, yes, there is one. The words pussy, money, weed are the basic human needs according to A$AP Rocky. And we see that in the last 30 years, the word money has been used 2.5 times more often in songs, while pussy and weed have been used less. Not because everyone suddenly got more cultured, no, it's just that things started being called by different names. For example, pussy turned into bitch. And do you know when all the pussies in the world turned into bitches? In 2005. That's exactly when the graph starts rising. While we're at it, let's check out coca. Type in the word coca, which is a far cry from Coca-Cola, you know, and you'll see that the coca chart is also skyrocketing. I'm not involved in this, it's just that coca is consumed alongside money. If you have $1, which unfortunately I don't, you probably also have 1 milligram of cocaine. Good news, I don't have 1 milligram of cocaine. That's 500 times less than the minimum illegal amount. But bus driver Alan Bales lost his job after a drug test showed traces of cocaine. He managed to prove that it entered his system through a large sum of cash. Money is very dirty. On average, there are about 3,000 different microorganisms on a banknote, causing things like food poisoning, pneumonia, stomach ulcers, and so on. But money also carries DNA from horses, boars, wolves, and even white rhinos, an animal that's nearly extinct now. The last male of the northern subspecies died in March 2018. In short, money has taken a strange journey, and now it's clear that doing this is bad. But doing this, like kinda right but dumb. Electronic payments. That's what will help us get rid of dirty cash. Also, they will save us 235 days of waiting in lines. That's how much time we spend in lines over our lifetime. It's like watching every episode of The Simpsons 22 times, or climbing Everest 3 times. Or better yet, sitting on the toilet. This is where 1/3 of millennials make purchases. Here is info about millennials. A few more interesting facts. Technology is cool. Soon, we won't have to deal with couriers. Soon, no one will have to deal with couriers. The future is entirely for introverts. Instead of couriers, drones will come. Amazon has already patented a tower aerodrome and already using drones for delivery instead of couriers in certain regions. But here's the most interesting thing. How will we pay for all of this? What will happen to money in the future? Right now, cryptocurrencies are the best candidates for new money. Here's the current share of cryptocurrency in the money supply. But look at how the volume of investments in crypto grew in just 8 months. Yes, many will say that cryptocurrency is a bubble, a scam, but let's not rush to conclusions. Let's remember how many amazing inventions appeared in the 20th century, and each of them, look at television, air conditioners, microwaves, and even cell phones, went through a period of distrust, followed by explosive growth in popularity, and eventually, acceptance. Most likely, the same thing will happen with cryptocurrency. So, what are money worth now? On the technology cycle graph, we can see what money is worth now, here we are, and what it will be worth very soon. Money is valued as much as we believe in it. Money is the biggest convention in history, almost like Santa Claus. We all want the magical atmosphere, create the illusion of it like we did in childhood. We believe in it, but in reality behind it is just a man with a fake beard.
I gotta get to work.
Believe me, I'm not on the side of cryptocurrency, no. I'm just talking about technologies and what's happening with them and what will happen in the near future. No matter how much we are bombarded, there's no turning back. In a refugee camp in Jordan, the entire system functions on blockchain based on Ethereum. Instead of cash and cards, there's a virtual wallet. You look into the camera and money is deducted, but more importantly, the refugees' documents are stored on the blockchain. At this stage, it's clear how much money has been spent and by whom. If every entrepreneur became just a little bit like Elon Musk, they wouldn't be afraid to make bold bets on projects in various fields. Even if a few IT companies start following his example, very soon this could become as outdated as this. My favorite Metallica album. The only question is, how much longer do we have to wait? And as usual, if you found this interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Upgrade your brain. See you!